The wind pushed hard against the windows that morning, dragging gray clouds across the sky like torn cloth. Inside the nearly empty cafe, the heater rattled, doing little to fight the cold that clung to every surface. In the back corner, a girl no older than 10 sat hunched in a booth, arms wrapped tight around herself. Her coat was too thin, her hair damp at the ends. She didn't ask for anything. She just sat there, quiet, invisible. The woman behind the counter noticed. She always did. She slid a slice of toast onto a warm plate and filled a mug with milk, not too hot, just right. Then she walked over and placed them gently on the table without a word. Nobody had told her to do that, but she did, every morning. She never asked the girl her name, never asked questions, just served and smiled. She was somewhere in her 30s, with wind-creased eyes and sun-touched skin. Each day she untied her coat, looped her apron over her shoulders, and rinsed her hands beneath the cold tap. No one used her name, just, "Hey, waitress." Still, she remembered every regular's coffee order, every odd habit. Extra lemon, no onions, side of jam. Every morning, before the rush, she'd take the leftover crumbs from yesterday's bread and wrap them in a napkin, placing them quietly on the edge of the counter. No one knew why. It became routine. Winter stretched on. The girl kept coming. The woman kept serving. No one paid much attention. Not until one quiet morning, when a tall man in a dark coat stepped inside, surveyed the room, and asked, "Who is the person who feeds my daughter breakfast here every day?" The trouble started when they hired someone new. Haley, barely out of college and eager to prove herself, was the type who did things by the book. On her second morning, she noticed the toast and milk going to the same booth. Again. No order slip, no register entry. Just a silent child and a waitress who kept breaking the rules. That afternoon, the manager called her in. His office smelled like burnt coffee and cheap cologne, papers scattered, blinds always drawn. He didn't look up when she stepped in. "You think you're some kind of saint?" he said. "Some savior of lost children?" She didn't answer. "I know about the food. I know she doesn't pay. Haley saw it. So what now? You going to start a soup kitchen with my overhead?" She had heard this tone before, in school offices, at doctors' check-ins, wherever people assumed kindness was a weakness. He leaned back, sneering. "You're dragging around a halo no one asked for. That's what you are. Playing martyr for people who'll never remember your name." Then came the threat. Any more freebies, and it would come straight from her wages. One more slip, and the schedule would suddenly be full, without her on it. She signed the warning form without blinking. By evening, the whispers had started. In the break room, she just wants to be pitied. Probably trying to get written up so she can sue. Maybe she's angling for tips from rich customers. A regular, a man who ordered steak and eggs and never left a cent in tips, watched her pass with narrowed eyes and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You think you're the mother of the world or something?" Still, she said nothing. The words didn't sting anymore. They just reminded her how little the world expected from people like her. She cleaned the counter, topped off a coffee, checked the burner. Then, as always, she returned to that same corner booth. The girl had already left for the day, but her plate was clean. The glass, half full, still warm. The waitress picked it up gently, cradling it with both hands, as if it were more than glass and milk. For a long time, she just stood there, staring at the spot where the girl had sat. No one called her name. No one asked if she was okay, and that was fine. She'd grown up in places where chairs weren't pulled out for kids like her, where no one asked how her day was or if she had enough for lunch. She knew what it meant to be passed over, to be quiet on purpose because no one cared enough to listen. She placed the glass in the sink, wiped the table slowly, and laid a fresh napkin down. She didn't speak, didn't explain, but her eyes lingered on that booth just a moment longer. By now it was muscle memory. A slice of toast, a small glass of milk. Always at the same booth, always before the sun fully woke. She still didn't ask questions. She just made sure it was there. By now, she no longer thought about it. Just toast, milk, the quiet act of setting it down where silence waited. No note, no receipt. Just a ritual with no witness but her own hands. She didn't look around to see if anyone noticed. They never did. Customers shuffled in with wet boots and short tempers. The cook barked orders behind the swinging door, but the booth by the window always had its quiet moment. A girl would appear, silent as fog, slip into the seat, and eat with the careful grace of someone who'd been told not to take up too much space. That morning, the rain hit harder than usual. The weather was brutal, rain blowing sideways across the windows, the bell above the door stuttering with every gust. The girl arrived drenched, hair dripping, jacket clinging like wet paper. She ate quickly that day, huddled small. Then she slid out of the booth and disappeared before the waitress could refill the milk. Only when clearing the table did she see it. A small square of folded paper, damp in one corner from where the glass had sweated against it. She unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was uneven, pressed hard into the page. "Today is the day I'm not afraid anymore, because of you." She stood still for a moment. Then she folded it back, twice over, and slipped it into her apron pocket, into the little inner corner where she kept something else, an old photo, yellowed at the edges. In it, a child sat alone on a metal bench, jacket full of stitches, hands in her lap. No one else in the frame. She kept it close, not to remember pain, but to recognize it when she saw it in someone else. A reminder, perhaps, of how easily the world overlooked someone who didn't speak up. The next day, she did the same as always. Toast, milk, quiet smile. But the booth stayed empty. Same the next day, and the next. No one asked about the missing plate. No one noticed the quiet absence. But she did. That third morning, she still brought the tray over. Still set the plate down. Like a ritual that refused to be broken, she placed the glass just right, smoothed the napkin flat with her fingers. And then, before returning to the counter, she reached into her apron, pressed the folded note flat, and laid it gently beside the toast, just in case the girl came back. The bell above the door chimed at 7:05. She had just placed the plate on the left corner table, toast, milk, a folded napkin, when the sound of tires crunching against wet gravel made her glance out the window. Some habits weren't about hope anymore. They were just muscle memory and something softer. A sleek black car had pulled up, its windows tinted, its body so polished it reflected the overcast sky like water. 3 people stepped inside. The first was an older man in a dark wool coat, his posture relaxed but alert. His eyes scanned the room with quiet calculation, missing nothing. Behind him were 2 younger men in suits, assistants maybe, or something more careful. He didn't sit, didn't browse the menu. He simply looked around and asked, his voice even and unhurried, "Who helps the child in the blue jacket come here every morning?" For a split second, she froze. But before she could open her mouth, the manager stepped forward, all smiles and smooth down hair. "That would be us, sir. Our restaurant is very attentive to children in need." The man didn't even look at him. He turned to her instead. His gaze didn't soften, but it focused. "I have proof. It's you." From his coat pocket, he drew a thick envelope and placed it carefully on the counter. Inside were photos, dozens of them. The grainy black and white stills from security cameras. Every quiet morning, every small gesture, all recorded. She didn't say anything, and he didn't thank her. Instead, he asked, "If I wanted to open a chain of breakfast cafés for kids across the state," no questions asked, no child turned away, "would you be the first?" She blinked. The room felt suddenly distant, like a dream hovering just beyond her comprehension. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. He nodded once, slowly, as if confirming something to himself more than to her. "We're building something that needs a name and a reason. You're the reason." Behind him, one of the assistants pulled out a business card and set it on the counter between them. She didn't reach for it. Not yet. The manager, still standing awkwardly nearby, opened his mouth as if to protest, but the man raised a hand and the air shifted. It wasn't a threat, just an ending. Then the man glanced down at the table in the left corner, where the toast still sat untouched. He walked over. With careful fingers, he picked up the folded note the girl had left days ago, the one she'd tucked beside the napkin that morning, just in case. He unfolded it, read the single sentence. Then, without looking back, he slid it into his coat pocket. And smiled, not at anyone, not for show, just a quiet, strange smile to himself. She never asked what would happen next. He never said, but something had already begun to move. A month later, a small restaurant opened at the corner of the old gas station. It was called Goksang, Corner of Morning. The chairs didn't match. The walls still smelled faintly of paint, but there were always warm pancakes on the griddle, and milk kept just the right temperature. Near the register hung a wooden sign, carved carefully from the looping scrawl of a child's handwriting. Today is the day I am not afraid anymore. Beneath it, another line, even smaller. No one is turned away, especially children. It wasn't a grand place, but it had heart, the kind you could feel before you stepped inside. The man never returned. But every Friday, a bouquet of fresh flowers arrived, along with an unmarked envelope that simply read, "For today and tomorrow." One gray morning, as the sky held its breath, a girl stepped inside, older now, her hair long, no coat. She placed a small folded note on the counter, then turned and walked out. That day, thanks to you, I learned good people still exist. If you believe a quiet kindness can still change something, leave a message. Someone might need that hope today.